Well, here is a sentiment I am sure all of you can relate to, and that is that there is no place like home. I really missed the cottage while I was gone. That may seem like a funny thing to say, but I was so happy to get home. Not only because I missed being here, but also because I was just really enthusiastic about starting to execute some of the ideas that I got while I was in Scotland. And simply because truly there is no place like home. And it was so wonderful, you all, to come home to relatively cooler temperatures and rain. Look at that rain outside. So it's a rainy day, even though there's a lot of things to do in the garden. I am going to be staying inside. I am unpacking. I'm getting organized. And I'm also reflecting back on just how much the cottage has changed over time. And I thought you guys might want to take the opportunity, like I am, to just kind of wind back the clock, look to see how far the cottage has come. And it might give you just, as always, why I like to do this is it might give you guys some inspiration for ideas for your own home and maybe remind you how far you've come in your own places. So here is a playlist of the evolution of the interior of the cottage.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Storybook Cottage, aka my new house. And you can see that we are really in the midst of it. There is chaos all around us. For a while, Stuart, I was able to keep up with the influx of boxes. In other words, they would come in, I'd empty them, then more would come in. Well, that ship has sailed, and right now I am surrounded by boxes that are hollering at me, saying empty me and help me find my rightful place, which I shall do. But today what I want to focus on is not the chaos, but some order that we've actually established primarily in the great room. And I've invited my friend John Turman back because he's going to help us address some of the questions that we had about setting up that room, the placement of the TV, a number of those different kinds of questions. We're going to go through those one by one. So let's get started. So let's go back to the great room and answer some of those questions. But the number one I think decision point was where to place the TV. And it really was kind of a collaboration. The right answer seemed pretty obvious once I read through so many of your comments and I consulted with John. And we're going to discover where we ended up putting the TV and the rationale for it. But first, I want everyone to appreciate that my island is clutter-free, and it has remained pretty much clutter-free, hasn't it, Stuart?
Yeah.
Since I moved in, because I have put the fear of God in anyone who dumps their stuff. Even Stuart, when you walked in, you said, I'm going to put my camera case here, but just momentarily.
Yeah, so it'll only be there.
Yeah, just momentarily. Okay, so Stuart, come on, let's go around the corner. And this also helps people know how it kind of all fits together to the great room where my buddy John is waiting. John
Hello again.
Turman. Hello, sweetie.
So good to see you.
It's good to see you.
In this beautiful room.
I know it's kind of coming along.
It is.
But before we get started, so many people have wanted to know about you, John, and if they want to take advantage of your services, your designer services, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest thing to probably remember is that my email is john@johnturman.com.
Okay, and that's Turman.
And thank you for saying that. Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, John does large-scale projects and everything, but he also, thankfully for me, does smaller scale projects like mine. It's more of a consulting.
I do. I always say I'll hang a picture for somebody if that's all they want, and do a whole house, and then I travel to do my work, and it's been amazing how that's worked out. But there are lots of different ways to engage me, and I've even done things just online. So where I never went to the house.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So if somebody sent you images or whatever,
I had
you
a
can
client
help them.
who was building a new house in Texas, and she needed help with her finishes and her plumbing selections and all that stuff. And so she would shop and look online, and I would do the same, and then we would have a video call and talk about all these things. And anyway, it worked out really well.
Yeah, so, there's so many different ways.
There really are.
Very small granular scale to a very large scale. So I just wanted to answer that question before we get into the long list of questions, solutions that some of our followers had, and how we worked through the decision-making process, I think, together.
Absolutely.
Because there's no, as you and I have often said, there's no wrong idea. There is just the one or two that are right for you.
That's absolutely correct.
And so I give all of you guys out there in YouTube land credit, and you, John, for helping me see the light.
Okay.
So let's get started and reveal the placement of the TV.
So if you guys remember, when I was here before, I kind of thought maybe the best solution for the television would be to move it so that everybody could see it from anywhere you sat in the room.
Right.
And it was this wall right over here. And the bookcases were over here originally. And so we had this long discussion about all that. And I think you were maybe on board, but not totally.
Right.
And so what was really cool about all the responses that you all gave was that everybody had an opinion. So we went through it and came up with a list of things. But overall, this did kind of win out, I think, didn't it? And the important thing was just to try it. Yeah. So, and so I got a text the other night that Linda and Jamie had done this, and I'm so excited to see it, and we're excited to show you.
Like I say, I think sometimes we have the luxury of being able to try things, and to the extent you can try different things before you commit, then that's a good idea. I also shared with you that we're not really huge TV people, and this actually was in a study that my husband had upstairs. I think it was used maybe a handful of times.
Really? Okay.
So I was surprised when we moved it in here how much bigger it was.
Well, it is big, but I think it's an appropriate size for the room. And of course, once you hang the art and around and all this and keep the, get the table styled and all that, the TV does just kind of disappear. And my whole point is that you shouldn't have to move something to watch it. It should just be there. And you also don't want to overpower the room. And there's enough other things going on in here that even though this is a large piece, I think it will disappear when the wall is covered with art and you don't see it when you walk in the room. So, and when you do want to watch TV, all you have to do is sit down and turn it on. You're not moving something or lowering something or raising something.
Exactly.
I mean, there were a long list of ideas, many of which were great.
And who knew? Right. And I love the fact that you guys really thought outside the box.
Yes.
Because I tend to be kind of formulaic in how I think of things, and the fact that you guys really thought outside the box about not just this room but other rooms, I think is just a wonderful thing.
It is. It's been fun.
It's just really a wonderful thing. But you came up with, because trust me, John, I think, read, and there were a lot of them. Who knew people had such strong feelings about TVs?
That's true.
But John went through every one of them, and he came up with some different options that people shared, and how we went through each one of those options. But before we start that, I want to briefly talk a little bit about the inspiration for this room in general.
Yes, that'd be great.
Because you had asked me about that earlier. Well, like I say, before we get started, you'd asked me what my inspiration for this room was, and I think it's kind of twofold. My husband and I spent our honeymoon in Tanzania.
Oh, how cool. I love that.
Yeah, on a 3-week walking safari in the Selous Game Reserve.
Okay.
And it was one of those trips of a lifetime, and I have to share.
I know, that's an amazing picture of Jamie.
Isn't that an
really
amazing picture? He looks just kind of like very Hemingway-esque.
He does,
Don't
absolutely.
you think? And then Stuart, we may have to put up some of these images. We've got us
I love that.
in front of our pup tent and in the savannah, and we have some wildlife pictures too. So we love that trip so much. And also I think it's kind of informed by the fact that, my son Johnny lives in Singapore, and I love that kind of kind of Eurasian, African, that whole thing, kind of inappropriately called British colonial.
Right.
But I really love that, and it's kind of the fusion of different cultures. And then secondly, I think because my husband is just short of an anthropology degree from SMU, and he loves archaeology and anthropology and Great Plains Indian culture and all of those kind of things. So it's kind of a fusion of those two.
Which is very successful. It really, that works to put that all together, and it's going to make a very comfortable room.
Yeah, I think so too, and comfortable for us. And then, I love Serena Crawford.
Yes.
You and I are both fans of her work, and it looks very Serena Crawford to me, and it kind of just feels like a hunting lodge.
But it's really just going to look very Linda Vodder.
Well,
that's what we want it to look.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's
Yes.
so nice. Okay, but enough about that. Enough about the aesthetics. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of the practicalities of TV placement.
Okay. So a number of the ideas, and they're all great ideas, so I don't want anyone to take offense on any of this. They just weren't right for Linda's room or for Linda and Jamie. But as you know, we talked the first time about having a TV on the arm over in the corner over there, and I think everybody pretty much agreed that would be the first thing you saw when you walked in the room. It would look like a gym or a spa or something like that.
And of course, that was my suggestion, so definitely my bad. And can you imagine this?
Oh no, it would be horrible.
Behemoth.
It would just be horrible. And the furniture, your neck would be turned, you would be turned. The only place you would be able to see that is right here. And that just wouldn't have been great. So, and then people mention, using, which has been done lots of times, using carts for TVs that you roll in and roll out, and TVs on arms above the fireplace that you lower down. Well, all of those things require work when you get ready to watch TV. You want to be able to come and plop in a chair and just hit the button and it's all there for you. You don't want to have to move any cabinet doors or lower something off the fireplace. This new, I think it's sort of new, this bracket that goes over the fireplace, it actually pulls out and drops it down. Well, I will say, and I hope none of my clients are listening to this, but the ones who have it never push it back up.
Right.
And it just looks horrible. It's just not,
Yeah.
it functions, but really doesn't. Right. It doesn't work.
Talk a little bit, if you would, about why, because instinctively you think, TV over the fireplace, there's an outlet there. It would just be so kind of convenient. But talk a little bit about why that was not the solution for us.
Well, in here it would have been too high, really. I think you would have been looking up all the time. And from my standpoint, and I think yours too, it truly would have been the first thing you see when you walked in the room. And that's not what you want to see. The fireplace is beautiful. That's really one of the things that drew you to the room, into the house.
Yeah.
So you don't want to have this competition with the TV. And so anyway, and I just think that, people talked about using armoires, and of course we did that quite some time ago. That became a really big deal. And I've always felt like I was sitting and looking at an open closet when I was doing that. However beautiful that might be. Again, people don't tend to close the doors, or the insides of the armoire weren't finished well or styled or something like that. Well, it just never really quite works. So
the other thing that really was very important to me, that really stuck home with me, is that you said it was a great opportunity cost, because yes, I could have the TV up there, but at the cost of not being able to have that fabulous Shapiro painting up there, which should be the focal point of the room, not a piece of electronics.
Yes.
And so again, no right or wrong answer, but for me, and because so many of you taled about neck strain.
Yes.
See,
There's
I don't
lots
watch
of experience.
TV that much, so I don't even. Okay, so lots of neck strain, but the thing, I am more aesthetically driven, and so when you pointed out the opportunity cost of not having a piece of fabulous art up there,
one of your prime places for seasonal decorating and
all
all the things you do. And if you had a TV there, you just blew that, so it just wouldn't work.
Exactly. Okay, so now go on to some of the next things you guys brought up.
I think we got all that. Oh, and one of the things too that we and you and I both thought was interesting was that the bookshelves themselves. People talked about splitting them, taking them apart, building things in between them.
You know what? Let's go over to the bookshelves.
Okay, let's go look at that.
So for people who haven't seen them.
So for one thing, in case, I think there was a question about this too. The bookshelves are in fact in 4 pieces. So yes, that would have worked to split them. But one of the things that would have happened had we done something like that is we would have created a very similar situation to the way the fireplace wall works architecturally.
So let's rehash a little bit, because some people had suggested that we divide 2 and 2, and we have them flanking each side of the TV. And excuse my furniture, my furniture polish. A great focal point for any room. But had talk about that. So now explain.
And then people talked about either building a table or a shelf or even another piece that looks something like this. All those are great ideas. I will say too, that always, I think when people say they're going to build something or have something recreated, that becomes more of an issue than you would think. I mean, it seems simple
and more of an
it's
expense.
Very expensive generally. And then getting the finishes to match and all that sort of thing. But I just feel like this would have been too large and too much like the fireplace wall had we left that over there and tried to do that. And then the other thing is, I think these are great bookshelves, and I would hate it to have diluted that. So I think they do need to stay together. I think they need to stay dark. And and I hope we'll show you as you come back into this room, they don't overwhelm the room at all, and they do create a nice balance.
They're relatively shallow.
Yeah. Oh, and there's lots of room right here now behind the sofa.
Yeah, and let me address a couple of things from an aesthetic standpoint, because some people said, oh, all of this dark furniture against the white. That's exactly what I want. It's the white with the contrast of the dark furniture that very much gives me the aesthetic that I want, and also that I think is appropriate to the strong light of Oklahoma, and so I think it's not only African, Eurasian, or whatever, but I also think it's very Oklahoman. Some people also commented on the fact that these don't sit perfectly, straight. Well, that's something that can be rectified easily with a shim or with something that we just haven't gotten around to yet. But
in the meantime, they just look like antique bookshelves, so it doesn't matter if you see a little of this. And,
they are they're not antique; they're reproductions. We had them in my other home, but again, I didn't want in any way to dilute the drama of how they all look together. For me, not for maybe for some of you, but for me, I really like the impact of seeing them all together and the backdrop that they provide.
Right, I agree. I think this is very successful. So I'm really glad you did this, and I don't think you're going to move it back. So
no, I don't think so either.
I really don't.
Once we did it, my husband was just going, okay, that was duh. That was just like duh.
Well, and it made the room, first of all the furniture came in a little closer into the room, and it feels much cozier, and you're not too far from anybody to talk or to watch the TV, or it just feels better. And then it created a lot of space back here, which I think is going to be the opportunity for your mudroom.
Yeah.
I really do. I think
before we travel down and pull on that string a little bit, let's talk, if I can even remember. Stuart, do we have images of what it looked like before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because for some of you, you may just now be joining us and you don't necessarily know historically what we're referencing. But when we first moved in, we had the bookshelves on the TV wall, and over here we had that long groaning board table, and I was thinking incorrectly that the TV would be over the fireplace or in the corner. So then, before I made any kind of big commitments like that, I brought in John, which is another reason to hire a decorator for making big mistakes. Again, you can use people on a large scale. I have my strong opinions, as John knows, but we work. And somebody also commented, "Oh, Linda, you know what you want. Why even refer to a decorator?" Well, because I'm not a designer. I mean, I'm not a decorator. I have, I hope, pretty good taste, and I have an idea of what I like, but in terms of scale and things like that, I am not. Likewise, you also are a good gardener, but you nevertheless, when you do things at your Spanish bungalow, you consult designers about the exterior of your home, even though you're a very good gardener.
And I absolutely have opinions about it, and we don't always do what they suggest.
Right, right. But it's very much a give and take, and it's like a mutual brainstorming, I think.
That's what I was going to say. I think that's important to don't just think of a designer as someone who comes in and tells you what to do or does it for you. Right. They really are listening to your ideas and just talking you through it and making sure that's really what you want to do. And sometimes, I or somebody else may have another spin on it, or just some icing on it that makes it better. Well, and it's just something you didn't think about.
The other thing is, and why it was so helpful for you guys to comment so much, and please do comment and subscribe and hit the notification button, is because what I like about it is is it's mutual brainstorming. Yeah. So we talk about things, and Stuart, before we got started filming, we were talking about different things about the coffee table.
Yes.
And you were saying this and this, and then I said, oh, but this and this. And you ultimately came around to...
I'm on Team Linda on that one.
Yeah, and ultimately you said, but it was through the process of walking through the constraints, the practicalities of it, the navigation of the room, that solutions, optimal solutions, very personal signature touch solutions become obvious to you. Don't you love friends who remind you of the brilliant things you've said in the past?
I do, because I'm so bad about not remembering things like that. And then when you say it, I'll know. But so tell me what it was.
Well, I think it is, I have said it so many times in garden design, and then you put it in the context of interior design. And a lot of you were concerned, and you talked about the glare from the big picture window on the TV during the day. Well, the brilliant thing you said was you make design decisions based on the time of year or the time of day or the context in which you use that space.
Absolutely, you do.
So this space during the day, unless my family's home or whatever, probably won't be used a whole lot. Since we've moved in, it's only been used at night. We light a fire. It's or maybe very early in the morning. Neither of which time did we have the TV on, but we do like to watch a movie or a documentary or something at night, at which point glare is not an issue. Right. So while for many of you that might have been a constraint, for us it wasn't even a consideration, and I didn't want to make a long-term decision based on something that for me doesn't exist, or was a short-term consideration, people being here during the day watching TV.
Well, and it still may be that as you've lived here a while, you may want to do a screen shade on the window, just because there may be other reasons you want some of it, just for privacy sometimes.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that, and we often do, and I think we said this before, we make design decisions based on something we do once a year, or maybe even not at all. We just think we're going to do it. It's really important to live with your space and to see how it's going to work. And I don't even know. Do you even know what happens if you turn the TV on in the daytime?
No, because I've never turned the TV on in the daytime. So it's not, but you know what? I still want to talk some more about this room, but that's a nice segue to a lot of comments people had about another room. So we'll come back here, but let's go to that other room and address a lot of input we got.
Okay, that'd be great. So another thing that was on the list was how you were going to use that front hall closet. Well, it's not a hall closet, the front closet by the door.
Front closet.
And you, of course, thought, and it would be a brilliant idea to make it a mud type room. And a lot of people talked about, well, that's your front door. Is that really where you want that? Or, and I had said, you know, with the window in it, this is too good to be a closet. So we're going to set that one aside. But we do need to talk about where a mudroom can be. So now that the great room has kind of morphed into what it has, there is space back here to create what you want to be a mudroom, I think.
Okay.
So what do you think about that?
Okay,
do you think that might work?
First of all, this is a great tip that if you don't, like I don't have a dedicated mudroom.
No, you do not. But you have dedicated gardening boots.
But I have lots of I'm very dedicated to them. Dedicated gardening boots. And so, but the tip is sometimes if you don't have a space, you make a space.
Yes.
Or you partition off an area of an existing room to make a space, and you press it into service for that reason.
Yes.
And for me, it's a mudroom. The other reason that makes so much sense, which you have pointed out to me, is this is the door we'll ultimately be using more
It will be.
than the front door of the parlor. This is the one we'll be using. So at any rate, this is where I'll be schlepping in and out.
And it would be a long trip to take your wet garden boots up there.
It
You don't want to do that.
It
so
would. Okay,
they
so
would be
what?
okay.
Tell me what
So, well,
solutions you've come up with.
and I have a solution, and some of this came from viewer comments, but this area by the back door makes perfect sense, and you've already started it. You've got a coat rack back here. Great place to put the winter
Okay,
coats.
let me, because I want to ask you. My husband just put this here, and I thought, oh, is this in the way? Is it too bulky or whatever? But in no way
does it work?
does it impede coming in or going out.
Absolutely, and it could go a little bit closer to the bookshelf if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think so.
But it doesn't, and it looks cozy and just appropriate.
And it's the right scale.
Right, it is. So I think that's the start of it. But this space on the other side of the door, I could see you building maybe a, almost like a long table, maybe 6 or 7 feet long, and make it kind of high, the top of it, so that underneath you could do a tray for all the gardening boots and that sort of thing. You could even have a narrow shelf under that if you wanted a place to stick stuff, baskets or something. But
so more akin to like a bench table?
Kind of a bench, but taller than a normal bench.
Okay.
So that the boots look under, because some of them are tall, aren't they? Tallish.
You know, what comes to mind are those ones that you see that are a bench and they've got those square cubicle things.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want square cubicles. I think you want it to be a little more interesting than that.
And I want it to be kind of rustic, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know whether it's made out of some kind of reclaimed wood or maybe reclaimed wood and use your contact who could work on the dining room table to create some kind of a base to hold that.
Yeah, I love the idea of reclaimed wood and having something look kind of rustic.
A little bit rustic, a little bit garden, like garden furniture or something.
Very English.
Very English.
Okay.
And then I still think keep the chair here so that you can sit down and put your shoes on, take them off. Another place to sit your handbag or your tote or whatever.
Because we talked about a landing and launch pad.
Absolutely.
Kind
So
of
it still
area.
would be that. And it's not impeding on the table by the sofa. It's not impeding on the bookshelves. We still have a dedicated bar, which we probably should point out in a minute where that ended up. And then the top of that would be a great place to put plants. I can see topiaries and amaryllis and all the things you do.
I wonder what gave you that idea.
I don't know. And which brings up another thing. We had talked about whether this should be casement windows or French doors and all that. And I think the decision's already been made by you and Jamie that it should be casement windows. And it really does make sense because it allows you to create this mudroom space. You get to use the space. It's not just a walkway. And this door over here really does function the best for in and out of the house. So,
and I think, and I can't remember if we told you that ultimately, and the other thing is, expense is always a consideration. So let's not just talk about, we have deep pockets and anything we decide to do. We got one estimate on this and it was pretty high, so we're getting more estimates on it. It may be something that does not happen immediately, but to get it right, even though I am all about instant gratification, we may have to wait. But what I love is casement windows. First of all, there are casement windows in the front of the house.
Yes, there are.
So it would look as if it very much was appropriate to the vintage of this house. The other thing is we have lived with French doors in multiple locations, and they're beautiful, but boy, there's a lot of cons to them.
There really are.
Practical cons, in addition to having to clean all of those individual
and
things.
then just changing the window. If you start changing the opening, you get into the masonry on the outside, and the costs just really add up. And is it really worth it? Especially if you're not going to walk through them.
Other ones that we had that sat by the dad chair, we seldom ever use those doors. And for the reason we even want to do it is, first of all, this doesn't in any way speak to the vernacular and the integrity of this house. But also because for my husband, it's all about that blending the inside from the outside and feeling the wind on his face. So that will give us that inside-outside feel.
Absolutely.
The other thing is I just find them very, very charming. But then when we came up with the idea, and I don't know if we shared this with you, of switching this out ultimately for a Dutch door.
Which I think would be great, right?
Which I think will then give us that same indoor-outdoor
well, and it's very
feeling.
cottage-like.
Yes.
And that would be an easy, like, to open the top of that door and let air in. So
Yeah.
It'll be really functional. And again, we were talking about scale a while ago. The scale of this will fit the room better than creating a great big wall of windows.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Floor to ceiling type thing. So you just don't need that in here.
And it makes it possible
But
for
this
me
really will be very useful.
to have a mudroom here. We talked about maybe making a great big boot tray and putting it underneath. But I think it can be very fabulous. And then you just sit in this chair. These chairs belong to my second mom, so I love them. And you put on your boots, you take off your boots or whatever. And then I need to get probably something in this area where my husband can kind of dump his stuff, his keys.
Well, I still think even on the top of that table, you'll have some baskets.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I don't think you want it over here. I think you want to keep this for when you're in here in the evening. But
yes,
keep it all back here.
Yes, sir.
And as silly as this might be, you've got some room right here if you wanted to do something for keys to go on, because we can never find our keys.
My husband, in addition to being archaeology obsessed, his brother was a naturalist, and we have lots of beautiful antlers and things like that belonged to his brother, that a lot of which one of his best friends was a curator at the San Francisco Zoo. Before we get lots of complaints about that kind of thing, the animals would die naturally.
And these are...
And my brother-in-law inherited a lot of them, but I can just see some of these pieces hanging there with my straw hats.
With your hats on them, right? That'll be great.
Yeah, I think that will be very fun. And then speaking of garden boots.
See, and that's why I think this, I guess they're not as tall as I thought. So it probably could be bench height for the top of it. Okay. But I feel like a little bit higher we get it up under the window where you can put plants on it better.
Boots? Don't you have taller
I have
boots?
taller boots.
All right, well,
too.
then,
Well,
I think higher's
we'll have to.
better.
And
Y'all making more right
and another tip: you measure things.
Yes, you do.
Based on their application, based on the height of your suitcase storage, based on those different.
And my point is, I don't know that you want to sit on that table / bench.
Yeah,
I think it should be appropriate for what needs to go in it, and then use the chair for
But
sitting.
I think the width is more where I'm coming up with the bench. Okay, so then the last thing, and you approved, you gave me affirmation on it, because I had this piece in another location. My drawer has sunk in from the move, but I had this in another location, and I thought, okay, we can't have the book bar over here with people getting drinks and stuff in front of the TV or whatever.
That would not work.
So this secondary piece moved in here, and you condoned my...
I think it's great for a bar. And that is a very long wall. So you've now divided it into 2, if not 3 sections. But the bigger one being around the TV, and that's where you'll eventually do some stuff. But this is a great place. It's in the passage on the way out to the door. It's not going to totally block it if you have 10 people over. This would have really been a problem if 10 or 12
if I had
people
originally had
collected
the book
right.
bar over here, then constantly people,
They really would have. So anyway, so I think this is brilliant. I think it's going to work well.
So a brilliant idea.
Yes.
And I do love it. And even though it's dry January and everything, I love barware.
Still
Even
to
if I
look at
didn't
it.
drink, I just love barware.
Yes,
I
I
love
agree.
crystal and things. Okay, so let's end on this, I think.
Okay.
Because I'm getting a little overwhelmed. In my other home, one of the things that Hubs and I do when we travel, the souvenir we typically bring back is a map of wherever it is we go. It's portable, it's lightweight, it's easy to bring back, and it conjures up fond memories. So we have a collection of maps that have been framed, and in my other home I had kind of multiple map walls. Now something I don't ever think I really had an official version of, and I have always wanted, is a huge gallery wall.
That would be great.
So I can see, tell me if you think I'm crazy, I can see a montage of our maps, of some of our old parchment certificates, some of our black and white photographs. I can see that really in the expanse of this wall.
I can too. I think that would be really terrific. One of the things that provides that was also brought up in the comments is that this house is all white inside, and your furniture is warmer, and even though there are lots of neutrals, it still has more of a warm tone. So covering a wall like that would almost provide the same idea as if you were painting it or putting up a wallpaper or something like that. But it's not changing it. It's just you know, the decoration instead.
And it grounds it.
It grounds it. And then my real hope by you doing that is that TV just disappears even more.
Yes.
You know, so that it just is not really noticed.
And I think it looks this is brilliant thing you said, number 3, is I don't want anything to really look contrived.
Exactly.
I want it to look organic.
Well, and the good thing about that is you can keep adding to it.
Yes.
If it's organic feeling. So, you
Yeah.
know, it'll go forward, move forward.
And in the context of this,
Right.
this
Well,
TV, and if the TV ever goes away, then I just put more maps.
put another one up,
or,
right.
or whatever in that spot. So I think that'll be fun, and it will also with the frames and everything will bring in these warm.
Absolutely.
Warm
Yeah, the bookshelves
tones.
won't be the only dark piece of furniture in the room at that point, I don't think.
Yeah. And give this visual weight. Plus,
So,
I just love the way they look.
I hope I get to help you with that. I think that would
Okay,
be so much
well,
fun to put that out.
Well, because
Well, as we've said, you know how to do things, so
well,
I don't have to
but
you know.
John it's one of the things you do. Okay, so we have Stuart. Do you remember the English garden that we went to not long ago at Susan?
Susan McCalmont's on Culbertson.
It was in Lincoln Terrace.
In Lincoln Terrace, in my
And it was
neighborhood.
with Roger. And we went over and we saw that fabulous.
The gated-in backyard?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we saw that
Absolutely.
fabulous English garden. Well, she has an art gallery,
does.
and you did the gallery walls.
Well, I got to do 2 of them. I don't work there, but I did get to. It's a new gallery, so I got to go, and she enlisted me to do 2 of the walls. It was great fun to do. So I'd love for you to see those at some point. We'll have to go over.
Yeah, you said you could probably. You have an in, so we could get an invitation
And then you probably remember at my house. You know, I think I have 3 in my house. Recently, one of which I took down completely down, the whole thing down, laid it all out on the floor. Or I didn't lay it on the floor. I laid it just all out, and then used my. I'm not going to give my secret away yet, but used something to put it back up there to see it before I hung them, and then rehung it. And I was able to get 5 more pieces of art up. And I think the wall is more interesting because it is a little more organic looking, and the spacing is not all the same between things. I got a little obsessed about that when I was doing it, and I never liked it because you know, it didn't
looked contrived.
It looked contrived. It did, and this is so much better, I think. So, and I bet in the video it shows the old one, and then now you can see the new one.
I can see
so
the new
we
one.
can probably we'll look at all that.
We'll, you know what? We'll just go back and see John's house again.
Okay, I'll let you
Because
do
you've done a lot. Well, and you've made a lot of changes to the garden, so we will go back and see that again. But I also I love that and I love the fact that I can inject a little bit of color. You know, I'm somebody that really likes kind of a monochromatic palette with pops of color.
Yes.
That's how I like it in my garden, and maybe seasonal pops of color, but with a palette that I can kind of change. And one thing that I had wanted to do, and I even put this in the community tab, is I really, really wanted to channel that botanical green, like the color
Yes,
of that candle. And I couldn't make it work in the front, but back here, I noticed it everywhere in Singapore. It's very Singaporean because it's that botanical meets all of this kind of aesthetic. And you have assured me that I can do that here.
Absolutely. And again, even though green's considered a cool color, it will warm up the space, you know, to add the pop of green.
And enliven it.
And enliven it. And it's a great contrast to the African and Asian things that you've brought in. So I'm anxious to see you try that. So,
and you know what it will be fun for us to do then is it will give me a reason to go thrift and just look at anything in that color. I don't care if it's a skirt, if it's a drape, if it's a whatever, if it's something.
And that'll be a fun little day trip. But another one would be to go to a big fabric showroom.
Oh yeah,
because when you're
promised
just
me.
making pillows, you can splurge. I mean, you can find some really interesting fabrics and just have these little, and some people call them jewelry when you add pillows to a room, you know, and you're all into your jewelry. So this would be the way to do the room. But that could be fun too, just to kind of just not pay attention to what things cost, and just pull samples, you know.
Well, and remnants. You can find inexpensive remnants
too,
that you can transform, if not into a 24 by 24, then into a lumbar pillow or something like that.
Which is a much better way to do that than buying a sofa in a green color that someday you may think this wasn't the right thing to do.
Yes.
So
yes.
I love the idea of that though.
I agree completely. Okay, so at some point I am going to show you the ingredients so that you can help me come up with a recipe.
I love that.
For my gallery wall, and more importantly, the how-to of how you do it.
That'd be great.
Okay. Have we answered all?
Well, I think there are things, but when we're in other rooms, hopefully we'll talk about more
videos. More videos.
Yeah, that goes on forever
guys, and ever. I just love how you are taking such ownership in all of this and have given us such great ideas. And
brainstorming or whatever it was you guys said earlier.
And you've already adapted some of those, and made changes from what you originally thought when you walked in the house.
Yeah.
And I think that.
Yeah. Somebody says, "Oh, you already know what you're going to do." No, I don't. I mean, I think I know what I'm going to do, and I tell John I think I'm going to know, partly because I want his affirmation. I'm insecure that way, but he can either say, "Okay, that's a great idea," or he puts it much more gently, or "What about this?" And then, and I think we'll end on that note.
Okay.
It is a mutual. What about this?
Absolutely, and that's what it should be, which makes it fun.
Yes,
It really
I agree.
does. And it can always be changed.
That's right. Thank you, my friend.
You're very welcome. Good to see you today.
Good to see you. Well, I want to catch up with all of you about some of the many, many things that we've been doing in the course of this move. But first, I have to really thank you guys. We have gotten so many sweet notes and messages and comments, and really way too many for me to answer personally. But Stuart, do we not appreciate it?
It's pretty amazing.
Oh, and some of you have said that I've had a couple of tearjerker moments in our recent videos. Well, some of your comments have been tearjerkers for me, and I so appreciate them. And please, if I don't respond individually, please let me know how much they are appreciated. But I digress. Stuart, let's start out with one thing that was really important to me that we took care of relatively quickly after moving in, partly because there were just such impediments everywhere to our getting things done, and also because I knew almost immediately where some of these things would go, and that is hanging some of our artwork, and then secondarily hanging just all sorts of hooks and brackets and things like that. And I have a wonderful guy who just hangs things. Now he hangs great and important installations, but also he will come to your home and hang things for you. And these are some of the things that he's hung. Let's kind of walk around, Stuart, do you think? And I'll show you some various things that we've hung. These are important to me because they all belonged to my mother-in-law. I love the colors of them. Some of the frames and the glass is a little bit beaten up, but I can take them to a framer and they will fix this broken glass and fix this frame and remedy those things. But nevertheless, this is where I wanted them to go, and I wanted to get them up off of the floor while I am waiting to go to the framers. This is how recent this is. We just now this morning found the glass that goes to this tiny little table. This, if you remember some of my past videos, Stuart, do you remember where this was? This was right in front of Hub's dad chair. And this was kind of, he called it his office. He would keep his stuff on.
Right next to his
right
chair?
In front of his dad's chair, right under the TV in the kitchen.
Okay, yeah.
So it has a new location. It needs to be cleaned up. Right behind you, we have this really brilliant, and this is one of my husband's, and I love the vibrancy of it, and I can't tell you the artist on that one because I don't know.
That would be a good reason.
Here, now please, we have so much still to do, but I did want to give you one of my favorite things that Stuart, I've wanted this for a long time. Mm-hmm. I have wanted a whole bulletin board wall. Here, let me turn that light on for you, Stuart. Stuart's trying to find it. There we go. I have wanted a bulletin board wall in my office as both a mood board and inspiration board. Stuart, it might help me be a little bit more organized, and nothing is organized on the board right now, but this is going to be an inspiration board for inside, outside, things I want to share with you, things that Stuart and I need to do, but primarily what I'm excited about is that this is where I am going to share with you and with myself my ideas for the new garden. So I've got this picture here of these absolutely gorgeous Asian lilies with some Verbena bonariensis, some dahlias in that kind of color palette, that bluish purple color palette that I like, some colors of gravel that I'm going to be working with. But this is wonderful, and as my garden comes together and I begin to see how it will unfold, well, you guys will be able to help me determine how it will be unfold, because we'll get a glimpse of it beforehand, before spring arrives. So all of those things will go up there. I've got a sweet note on there from a friend of mine, my dear, dear friend who lives in the neighborhood, about all of the things that we're going to do together within walking distance and fun little adventures we're going to take. I also have a grid, Stuart, here. Don't look at my messy desk, but I've got a grid here. These were in my office with those beautiful plum shades. And now how about we go to another room that's a little less messy and see some of the other things that have been hung.
Perfect.
Many of you asked where this cave painting, rendering of a bull, that was some cave art found in France many, many, many years ago, and you'd asked me where it would be located. Well, we decided that it would be located in this same hallway. And I use the term hallway really loosely, because there's very little wasted hallway space or transitional space in this home, but it's got great walls for artwork, and we will get an art lamp above that. And there's more in here. Look at this one, Stuart. So many of you, here's an update on the kitchen table. So many of you expressed concern over my initial inclination, which was to do a glass top table on a stand that I had. Well, there were a number of reasons that did not come together. And as many of you commented, even though it would have been a pretty heavy, thick piece of glass, it resonated with me that a lot of you said if you lean on it, it might be an issue. So I have a table coming in. It is a wood table, and I think it's going to look beautiful in this space, and it will look gorgeous with this piece of art that we have here. This isn't what I originally thought would go in this location, but I just love it. I love the red rock of Monument Valley, and I think it'll be beautiful in there. And then Stuart, we're back where I think we began this video, in the parlor. And my husband and I have decided that this is truly a parlor. He told me last night, he said, you've been referring to this as a parlor, and it very much is one. It's of that size and that magnitude, and also just that ambiance that to me speaks to a parlor setting. So this also, a lot of you asked, what about the painting that was in my dining room? And it is in its same location. It just always was the perfect scale for this sideboard that was in the dining room. And I still have my red lamps here. John, my buddy John the decorator, he was so glad, he said, when I brought back my red lamps with the beautiful finials. Now, prior to its function as a sideboard in the parlor, it was a sideboard in my dining room, and it contained different kind of dining related things. Well, now it contains indoor-outdoor things. So in here, we've got our masks, we've got our hats, we've got our ear warmers, and in this one, I have you guys know that I am a gal that loves her leather gloves, aren't I, Stuart?
I think they all know that.
I think it's a signature touch of mine. So I have gloves in here, and that way I can just grab them when I go out the door. They're perfect for these shallow drawers. And then the things that were in here are in a different location. I've got a spot here. This is my come in, go out basket. So you can see right now it's full, and it's full of things that are going to go to Goodwill. It's things that need to go to my friend Deborah. It's just things that need to go out the door, and they temporarily live in here. I did get a beautiful rug for the entryway. And by the way, you guys, If you want some great prices on rugs, I highly recommend that you look on eBay, because I have struck gold on some things that I have gotten from eBay as we have transitioned to this new house. You'll notice that I'm waiting on some other pieces of furniture in here, but this is fun because it's kind of starting to come together. You can see that this beautiful Jacobson, a famous Oklahoma artist. This was done in the 1930s. We decided to hang this over the mantle, and this too will get a light above it. But I love the simplicity of this vignette here, and I think it looks really beautiful. And then these were those, do you recognize those glass pillars, Stuart, from one of our dining room tablescapes that we did? And then I have kind of an...
What's the little glass plate that you set at the bottom of candles called?
Oh, yeah, a Bobèche.
Oh, that's it.
A Bobèche.
Never would have remembered that.
And then this thrift store find is filled with kind of an homage to the sea, with kind of a wink of some sand dollars and just some different finds that we've had on some of our seaside vacations. And then
I was kind of sad as a kid when I realized I couldn't spend my sand dollars.
You couldn't spend your spend. That would be disappointing to a kid. And this is another thrift store find that I love, and that really is in the same tonal quality. So I can't wait for this room. I'm like you guys, I just want instant gratification, but it really is so satisfying for it to unfold over time. I've got my blinds.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, did you just now notice that, Stuart?
Yeah, I did.
So I've got my blinds hung in here, which will diffuse the light but not block it out. It gives me some privacy, but not, I don't want to say not too much privacy, but it doesn't do anything to really diminish the amount and the quality of light that comes through these amazing, amazing windows, which is one of the things that attracted me to the house itself. The diamond shaped muttons that are in these windows. I adore them. And then it's been so cold, hasn't it, Stuart?
Yeah.
It has been so cold that we even had to postpone the planting of the trees in front as an outdoor update, but nevertheless, I am hoping that they're going to go in very, very soon, and I will be able to start doing a little bit of styling on the front porch. So Stuart, I'm going to get cold and open this door again, because I want to show those of you who were asking about my red painted front porch what I was going to do. And you can see that we have started power washing it. And there are still some areas that we have yet to address. We might need to do some sand blasting on that because it was really stuck. Stuck to the surface. But I love the fact that, you know how I love imperfect things, and I love the fact that there's little pebbling and remnants of the red paint, that it didn't wash all of them off, because I love those little nods to...
Well, yeah, it looks like worn.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
A really worn.
Stuart, you're backing up. Be
patio.
Careful, dear. Yeah. So that will be so fun, and I do have a plan for the front, and as soon as I can get started, because I'm like you guys, I'm just crazed to get over this cold weather and start working out in the front yard, and I do have a plan, and I'll be sharing that with you. But speaking of remnants of the past, Stuart, let's go into the kitchen. Well, I'm going to give you just a little bit of an update now that it's not absolutely frigid out here. And of course, none of this is going to stay the same. I'm going to completely morph all of this. A number of you have asked, am I going to have any artificial turf? And no, I am not going to. In fact, I'm going to have very little lawn in general. And all of these things that you see here, these boxwoods and things, these will probably be relocated. I do see that there's some little daffodils coming up, Stuart, and the pansies, some of the pansies have made it through the cold. So I just kind of had to get a little update. But Stuart, we just had little meet and greet, didn't we?
did.
This is just such a darling neighborhood. I can't come outside without meeting new people, and we just met some young gals.
Had to pick up their kids.
Yeah, had to pick up their kids, and they walk up and down my street to pick them up from the elementary school here, which is one of the reasons there are so many young people in this neighborhood, because the elementary school is just wonderful. Hubs is waiting to be able to come outside. He's poking his head out. I'm wondering if my hellebores that I planted in here made it, because it really did get so cold. I need to buy a mailbox. I need to do all sorts of things, Stuart. But at least we're moving forward and we're making some progress. But now, even though it's warmer, it's still kind of chilly. Let's go back inside. Well, this morning I had Oklahoma Heat and Air come out because we needed to change the filters, and I needed to have the furnace checked out and make sure everything was in working order. And so this was the first time that I'd been up in the attic. And boy, did we find some fun stuff up there. Who knew? So starting with, I love this. And let me tell you, my heat and air guy, he and I were having so much fun, and I think he enjoyed it as much as I did. So we found this really old, and this is my question of the day. If any of you remember these things, and more importantly, I have no idea on this stuff if any of it would be valuable, because I don't know how old it is. But this is an old Peter Pan peanut butter jar. I haven't even washed it or anything. But this was before they had the logo, the iconic Peter Pan, who became a cartoon, but this was back when it was a more realistic rendering.
I mean, high heels and everything.
High heels, yeah, high heels and everything. And it looks like something has been written on it. I don't know, maybe
Spreads
Steve?
so easy.
Yeah, and it spreads so easily, carefully selected. Anyhow, I just love that. But not as much as we enjoyed finding this old Corona, which probably is an archaeological find, but probably not quite so old.
No, I don't even know if they made the little ones.
I don't know. Maybe
long.
maybe it is old. I don't know about that.
I think it's not old, is what I'm saying.
No, yeah, maybe not old. Okay, now look at this is old.
No, this is old.
This is old.
I mean, just that price alone.
I know, the price alone.
I mean, it's like probably $35 for 5 of them now.
Is it really?
This is one of the most ridiculously priced things when you go to buy razors. They're
You're
so
kidding.
expensive. They're crazy.
Well, I love that. And I also, don't you just love the old fonts that they used?
Yeah, graphic design from back in the day.
And
is
the
so
old
interesting.
advertising.
The spacing between, the words,
Yes.
It's all old school.
Now, I am infatuated with bottles that are shaped in this way. So I just shouted with delight when I found this one. And it may look to the less than discriminating eye like this is just a Danish cherry liqueur. Now, there's no date on it.
Let's see the label for a second.
Yeah, okay. Can you see
So
the
I can show them, because someone might know exactly what this is.
Yeah. Yeah, some of our Danish friends. And then it's got this label on the
Yeah,
back.
she's about to show you the crazy part. Oh, there it is, yeah.
Copenhagen established its George Bestly, Copenhagen, Denmark. Okay. Now, what I love about this is the
We took our time there.
Yes. So I love the bottle.
It's very cool.
Oh my goodness, unless you were really discriminating, you would miss the fact that someone had transformed it into a music box. And I don't know how they did it, and it no longer functions.
You can't spin it and twist it or
Yeah. And it played For He Is a Jolly Good Fellow.
It's pretty cool. And you've tried twisting it. It won't
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Well, that is just so
Okay, isn't
interesting.
that a fun find? So the other thing that we found up there were some old floral cornices and things. There was, there wasn't enough of this stuff for it to be a fire hazard. Nevertheless, I did keep that in mind. There was a huge really old-fashioned. I'm sure it dates back to the 1920s, the 1930s, because this house was built in 1900, or 1902.
Well, you've said it before, but I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember.
it escapes. I need to look back at my notes. But there was an old rug up there, very much with a motif of that time, and it was a big rug. It looked to be like 8 by 10, so there must have been one room that was really large back then. I don't know what it would have been. And then over here, Stuart, and this was nostalgic, not in a way that maybe dated back to the 1930s, but let's say dated back to my era.
Social
And
studies.
some of you, again, to let me know if you have a flashback. Look at this. Remember when we used to, well, you can't.
No,
You're a baby.
I've done it.
Of that stencil that we used to use when we made these notebooks. This guy's name was Phil Gay, and I just love this.
It's got printouts in there.
Yeah, and you can see how the edges have all frayed, probably a little mouse eaten and things. Here was social studies, and I just love some of the things that are in here. Here we have the flag of Belgium, the flag of Great Britain. Isn't this fun? British America usually means those parts of North and South America and nearby islands. So it's very interesting. And this goes back, I think, to the 1960s. So not that, yeah, here we go. 1/5 of 62. So that's getting into my era.
I was just a twinkle in my mother's eye.
You were just of course, because you're such a baby. And then all sorts of thank you notes, all sorts of wedding paraphernalia, of announcements and thank you, and thank you notes and Christmas cards, and it's really old checks. Look at that one.
Boy, that $35 went a little further than.
Yeah, it went a little further then. Yes, it did. Central State Bank this was on 6th and Classen.
That was rent.
Yeah. Oh, we found a bunch of old wedding napkins and things. Oh, there was I loved this because, for years my husband's business was outfitting and designing commercial office spaces. So he sold office furnishings and office panels and everything related to that. And there's an old metal filing cabinet up there, and he knew immediately what it was. I think this was a G4.
That's the G4.
G4, and he said it dated back to the 1940s.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was funny. I did not bring that down. No. And then lastly, we looked at this travel guide for Oklahoma, but some of the lodges that are still here, and some of the favorite places we'd like to visit. So anyhow, that was just a fun find. And
again, just graphically, like just the way that a
yeah,
designer put that together.
Yeah.
And by no means is it bad. It's just
it's
a different style.
It's a different style, but it immediately jettisons you back to a different time. Okay, enough of that. Let's get back into the 2020s, and I'll show you some more things. Well, who knew that this little laundry area would turn out to be one of the most fantastical places to work with, and one of the funnest. I think it's going to just be a really great space. So starting with, I knew immediately when I saw this little laundry area, I knew immediately that I wanted to bring back these wonderful prints that used to hang. I think I alluded to it, Stuart, when we did a flashback of the nursery. These hung in my children's nursery and in their bedroom growing up, and I just love them. So I thought it would be really fun and very colorful to hang these here in the laundry room. So that's kind of my starting point and my muse. Now I'm going to go to either Lowe's or Home Depot, one of those places, and we're going to design some cabinetry, above cabinetry in here where I can have some closed door storage space, and then I will paint it to match the color of the island, which is this color. And you will notice that it is the perfect match to the backdrop of Mr. Lion. So I think it will be beautiful. It will make all of this area cohesive, and I'll have lots of storage because I don't have a broom closet. So this will give me a space to have a broom closet and have some of that storage for tools and those kinds of things that are the necessities of life. All of which probably right now is being exposed in these 2 wicker shelves. Now originally, truth be told, this was one of those cases where my sense of scale was off. I got these for the living room. And as soon as I saw them in there, I thought, the scale isn't great, but they will be brilliant in here because they're only about 10 inches wide or 10 inches deep, and so they fit very flush against this wall. And then I'll get some storage containers that have a profile and dimensions that perfectly match these shelves, and that way a lot of these ugly things will be hidden, but it'll be a really, really great place. And then I will still have an area where I might have a fold out, I don't know, I might attach a fold out folding table or something that will fit into the design that I will have done. But it's kind of a fun space, isn't it?
It is pretty cool
Yeah, kind of a fun space. And then you can see over here where we hung another one of our paintings. And then you can kind of just show the great room, which is a disaster because a lot of stuff is still going on.
Watch this.
It's still going on in the great room.
And there's Hubs.
And there's Hubs trying to get out of the way so he's not
Room looks good.
visible.
And so does Hubs.
There's his iconic dad chair over there.
That's perfect. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, I had to put up all my new GoPro camera stuff
Oh,
because Linda doesn't want to see it.
we're going to have to talk about this.
We do.
Yeah, you do need to talk about it. I said I knew Stuart would have to come in and show
Bye,
me
Jamie.
how to use it. Guest bedroom, you don't even get to look at that because it's quite a mess. Quite a mess. So now let's go to the master bath, which also is very much still in process, but I want to show you a couple of updates in there. So this little corner in my bedroom is very special to me because there is this wonderful painting that Hubs got me years ago for Mother's Day, and it reminds me of my first mom. And so this is a special corner to me. Again, it's still kind of evolving, but I wanted to show you something here. This is one of my new things I'm looking for when we go thrifting, Stuart, and we need to do a thrifting adventure.
I think so.
For people. And that is what I am calling match trays, not ashtrays, but match trays, because I light so many candles everywhere.
Those are candles?
These are candles.
What the?
I know. Isn't that fun?
What the heck?
So I light this.
Looks like pencils.
I know they do look like pencil, but aren't they, dear?
Very
and don't they look fun?
They're very
in this other thrift store find.
Yes, they do.
Here. But one thing that I'm
like
looking
honey sticks. I'm gonna end up grabbing one.
I know they do look like honey sticks. and they are made of beeswax. But the nice thing is one candle burns just long enough for me to kind of go through my evening routine.
Perfect.
And I like seeing them. But then one thing I want to look for next time we go thrifting are what I call match trays, tiny little bowls that you can keep your matches in, and then with its sidekick so you can put your spent matches in it. And because
nice and clean.
I am a candle kind of gal,
Yeah, you are.
I like to have them everywhere.
Let's see what this guy's doing.
And there's enough goop down at the bottom, that adhesive down at the bottom, that's why it stands up in there. And then I did hang this grid. These were in my other bedroom, and I love grids of paintings of anything, probably like you do too. I think it's a really contemporary look, and I love the look. So more importantly, a lot of that stuff, a lot of these things, once I decided where they needed to go, we were able to get them up off of the floor. Okay, so Stuart, let's take a break here, and I want to show you one last thing. Well, if you live or are moving into a brand new house, or you're moving into an old house, or like mine, an old house that was taken down to the studs, there's going to be a number of different things that you find that need to be fixed, that need to be remedied. One of them being my wonderful bathtub that I just could not wait to take my first bath in. The first bath that I took was a very tepid one, because this apparently we took out the regulator, the heat regulator in its innards completely, and even still the water didn't get very hot. So I'm going to have to probably replace that beautiful assembly, and probably at some expense, but that's just how it goes. And then I noticed that, again, don't judge me on anything, this is all still getting into place, but I mentioned that there was an outlet inside this cabinet, and that I noticed today for the first time I tried to use it, that outlet is not working. So I'm going to have to get that fixed. And this is just the kind of things that sometimes happen. But you also, if you find those kind of problems, then you also find treasures. And I alluded to some of them before, but this is my favorite treasure that I found up in the attic. This great...
I thought it was something that had been in here the whole time. Like, it looks so much like you, it's crazy.
I know, and it just matches this.
And
I just love it. I even kind of like its finish. Now it'll need to be buffed up, and I don't know, I may need another spray paint, metallic spray paint, and it's definitely filthy, and I need to give it a good clean.
Are you sure you're willing to spray paint something?
Who, me? The spray paint queen? Oh, you thought you knew me. But isn't this a great stool? And I'll put some cushions on the bottom so it will slide across the floor easily.
What do you think it was? What it is? Is it like a wood? Is it a whole wood or something?
Well, no. I think it was a vanity seat, and
it is a seat. Okay.
I think it is. And there's another question for you guys out there. Do you think this was a vanity seat? I think it was, and I think it had a cushion on it. And I probably will make a terry cushion to sit on top of it. And then when I get out of my bath, it will be the perfect accompaniment in my boudoir. And I think it's just wonderful. And I love it because it kind of coordinates with some of the brushed gold, brushed brass fixtures that I have in here, and I think it will simply be marvelous. The other thing I love about it, it's got this diamond pattern on it that echoes the diamond pattern in those front windows. So I love that kind of that domestic communication within your house and within your home. So I think this will be just wonderful.
She doesn't even have to go to the thrift store, guys.
I don't even have to go to the thrift store.
She just goes up in the attic.
Just go up in my attic.
That's crazy.
But these are jewels that I just didn't want to overlook. And the fact that they were here, and the fact that I can think back in time, the stories these things could tell.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I imagine some woman sitting at her vanity getting ready to go out and putting her dark red lipstick on and fixing her curls. Can't you, Stuart? I can see it. It has a little bit of an old Hollywood feel, but I just love it, and I am loving my new house. I will love it even more when everything is in its place. But I just wanted to share with you that we are making some progress over time. It will, and I want to be patient, because the interiors of your home, just like your gardens, don't happen all at once, as much as we would like them to. But boy, am I itchy to get started on the outside. This weekend, Stuart, we're going to be doing a little bit of work outside. Okay. We're not going to be doing a lot of planting and things, but we're going to try to establish some order to the chaos that is the backyard right now. But that will be for another video. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and enjoying these little updates with Stuart and me. Please, if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, comment below, especially comment below if you've got answers to some of my questions, because I just want to know the history of some of these pieces. But thank you guys so much. Make sure to share if you enjoy this content, and we will see you next time. Well, we're back to doing outfits of the day. Stuart, what I have on, it's all about being comfy, cozy, and casual. I've got some of these great earrings, you know, some of our favorite earrings from Azul Tiles, and we probably need to do some kind of collaboration with her for Valentine's Day. What do you think?
Absolutely.
My sweater is it's a cashmere sweater. I have had it forever. It was one of the very first gifts I got from Hubs, probably about 35 years ago, and it is still wonderful. My top is thrifted, and it's got cute detailing on the back.
I remember this one.
Yeah, I've worn this one before. My breeches are just some yoga pants because they're comfortable and good for unpacking. And my shoes are just some little Mary Janes that I bought online, and they are also really comfortable to wear when you're puttering around the house. They're kind of a combo between a foot and a slipper. Anything else, Stuart, that I've forgotten? Okay, well then, shut that door because it's chilly. We had the door open for this segment. Stuart, let's shut that door. Well, as you can see, it is all about the kitchen today. It's come light years from where it was just days ago, and I'm going to let you in on that process. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the wonderful products that I found, but mostly I want to concentrate on some of the principles of kitchen organization and design that I discovered. A lot of them compliments of my very good friend Deborah, who helped me wrangle the chaos that was my kitchen into an organized, peaceful, calming space. So we're going to talk about that, some of the overarching principles, some things I learned along the way, and of course, what I will be learning from you, because my question of the day is, what are some of your best kitchen organization tips? I asked about this in the community tab the other day, and you guys gave me some great insights. And that leads me to my question of the day, one I already posited in the community tab. What are some of your best kitchen organizational tips? Please share them in the comment section below. Make sure to share really great comments that other people have made with people that you may know, because definitely it is an art form as well as a science, and it helps all of us be more organized in the kitchen. So Stuart, what do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's get started. Stuart, I think my kitchen looks fairly organized right now, and please note that the clutter magnet has remained remarkably clear, with the exception of when I've been doing some cooking, and I actually have been doing some cooking recently because I had the luxury of a very organized cooking space. Compliments of my friend Deborah, who came over this weekend and just very, very sweetly shared a whole morning of her weekend with me to help, I guess, establish a sense of harmony, functionality, and common sense to my kitchen. Now, she probably has some additional additional background that helps this process that maybe you and I wouldn't have. First of all, she's a radiologist. She also has a degree in chemical engineering, but she said if she could do anything else in another life, it would be to be an architect. And I think it is that component of her personality that really helped her and helped me identify the logic of what should go where in this kitchen. It started out as a complete mess. She gave me some homework. She said, Linda, I want you to take absolutely everything out of every place. So that included my pantry. It included every cupboard, every drawer, places where I thought I had kind of found the spot for those specific things in my kitchen. But a lot of it was I just had crammed it so that I could empty out some boxes and reduce the ground clutter that I had. But this time, on Sunday, we really put some deep thought into it, and we got a little bit organized. So I'm sharing some video. She didn't want to be in it, so I'm sharing some video that we shot on Sunday with some of her organizing principles, things that kind of include, when form meets function or form follows function, putting like with like, establishing zones. I may not have mentioned it, but really thinking through how you live your life in your kitchen, just like I discuss quite frequently during garden season. How do you live your life in the context of your very specific garden? So let me show you this video and see if some of these things resonate with you. And then Stuart, at the end, maybe let's sum them up in kind of a graphic of some guiding principles that we followed as we did this. After that, I want to share some of my favorite kitchen gadgets with you that I have just recently found, and then ultimately show you some of the interiors of my cabinets and a lot of the lessons I learned along the way. So now let's rewind the time machine and go back to Sunday when we did a deep dive into organizing my kitchen.
It is the night before my great kitchen organization overhaul. I've got a friend coming tomorrow morning who has moved several times. She's extremely organized. She's an engineer in addition to being an MD. So her mind works in ways that mine doesn't, and she's extremely organized. And she really knows how to think strategically. So she is going to come over and help me tomorrow make the best use of my kitchen storage space, both in the pantry and in the upper cabinets and the bottom cabinets, etc. And so she instructed me to take everything out of the cabinets, and things had just kind of been shoved into place. Nothing was really organized. So she just said, take everything out of the cabinets, and then we will strategize about it tomorrow. We will get rid of duplicates. We will really think through different zones, form meeting function, and what I will use where. It's something that I think makes life so much more efficient and consequently so much more pleasant. So we are going to work on that and tackle it tomorrow, and we'll show you a little bit of the process and some of her best tips. We will share those with you. And you can see how I have one of my paintings hung, and happily, I think things are starting to warm up a little bit. You can see real life has already come to my house because I've got some things there on the stools that I just took out of the washer that are kind of air drying. But I'm okay with the progress. Now that we've just got this house to concentrate on, I think things will go much more quickly and much more smoothly. And I did order a kitchen table today, so I'll be anxious to share that with you, and even more anxious to get it into place. So slowly but surely things are coming together, and hopefully you'll see over time that it's starting to take on my and my husband's personality.
Now, can I just reiterate how much I love how much light there is in this kitchen today?
Beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful, Stuart?
It's not even bright outside.
Yeah, it's not bright outside. It is very cold and very overcast, and nevertheless, it is bright and cheery. There it goes. Okay, here's another question of the day. This house has all new appliances, which I very much appreciate, because it was taken down to the studs and everything was completely redone. But I have to say that it's a little bit stressful for me that everything is constantly talking to me. So I don't know, Stuart heard it, that little chirp.
I think we'll be able to make them hear it.
Okay, the little chirp, that was my
again.
washing machine telling me it was finished. My dryer does a different kind of little ring noise that tells me it's finished. If I leave the refrigerator door open, it yells in a delightful way, but nevertheless, it tells me it's open. Absolutely everything has a noise. The microwave has a noise. And while I appreciate it, I do find it very distracting. So number one, this is a second question of the day. Did you just hear it again? And it's going to keep doing that until I go and tend it. I find it distracting, a little bit annoying, like mom is just there nagging at you to get something done. And I'm also wondering, because I haven't read any of the instructions on my appliances yet, do you guys know, is there a way that you can turn off those notifications? So that would be very helpful to know, and might also be helpful to know for those of you out there in YouTube land who suffer some of these same issues.
What a great truth. Instead of using a manual, we can just ask people in this scenario.
Oh, I know. It's
so
one of the
cool.
reasons I love this is you guys have given me so many. It's like
thing.
You guys are my Siri. I ask Siri, and I just ask you guys, and you give me answers. I may not have a chance to comment on every one of your comments, but we do eventually read them over time because there's so many, and we love every one of them. Okay, Stuart, let's pause this for a moment so I can go tend to my washer so it doesn't not only irritate me, but irritate all of you. Well, that is so much better. Another reason that I really don't like that is because it really interrupts my focus. And if you are writing or you're doing something and it's like you need to stop everything immediately and go and tend to that household chore. Stuart's nodding his head.
No, all the dings in our lives.
Yeah, so it must be a universal thing. So I need to put all of my appliances on silence. If there's a way to do that, let me know. So I really practiced what she preached, and we followed those guiding principles. And one of them that I think kind of was a twofer overarching thematic was not only does form follow function, but you establish zones, and only you guys will know what zones you need to have in your own kitchen. So I found that I needed things or stations like entertaining station, baking, cooking, flower arranging, things like that. And I wanted to make sure that my kitchen was in accordance with what my major tasks and preoccupations were. So here's an example of form follow functions. The other thing that I love, which we may or may not have mentioned, was that it should be intuitive. So she said when somebody comes into your house, it needs to be intuitive to them where they should go. And that not only is for your guests, like when Stuart came in for the first time in a while, but also for family members. This way, if it's intuitive, I don't have to always tell hubs, okay, this is there, or that's there, or whatever. Also, if you have people helping you in the kitchen, clean up afterwards, or you're sick and they come in and they try to help you out by doing your dishes or putting away the dishes in the dishwasher. If it's intuitive, that helps tremendously. So form follows function in that regard. So this spot right here Entertaining was one of the priorities that I had when I moved. One of the reasons I wanted to move, because we wanted to entertain more. And even though I have a bar area in the great room, I also kind of wanted a bar area or / entertaining space in my kitchen. And as it turns out, this little nook right here became that space. So we placed items accordingly. So the top drawer is filled with things that are bar related. So I've got wine bottle openers, corkscrews, I have coasters in here, I have my daily vitamins just for me because it's easy. But I also have matches in here for all of my candle lighting. I have, when I serve water and things like that outside and I want to keep them from being buggy, then I can place these over the top. I learned this in Africa, Stuart. They had these, and there's a name for these kind of doilies. I'm not sure what it is, but they're beaded and they have little weights. And so that way it keeps either your glass or your pitcher bug free. So I've got those in here. Okay, there's another something bead yelling at me. What else do I have in here? Oh, I've got my cocktail napkins in here. I have toothpicks for hors d'oeuvres. I've got some margarita salt because typically when I have margaritas, I'm entertaining. What else do I have in here? Oh, I have a package of tablecloth secures. So these are clamps that if you are dining outside and it's windy, then the tablecloth won't blow away because you can clamp it into place. So I've got that here, because that's something that I'm likely to use when I'm entertaining, and just some other miscellaneous things. This is my standard housewarming gift, a blessing for your home. I keep my extra copies of this in here for housewarming gifts. So I feel very organized, and I know where stuff is if it's related to bar and entertaining. So I've got that in here. Now that's pretty much the amount of space I needed to these kinds of accessories for this area. The rest are in the back. I also have my ice bucket here that is collecting some interesting corks and things. I have a platter here with some of my favorite glasses. The blue picks up on, let me torque this way, this gorgeous oil painting that speaks to Hub's primary hobby, and that is fly fishing, and because I wanted to incorporate a little bit more blue. And then I have a favorite thrift find that I've had for years of this seascape. Hey Stuart, say hello. And it's one of my very favorite things, and I can prop it up here, but what I think I might do is there is an outlet right here, so if I'm making margaritas or something over here, I can do that. But I still want to hang this, so I may just get an easily removable command hook or something like that and hang it there, and then I can set it back down when I want to use that outlet. But I kind of want that outlet to be hidden most of the time. So I've got my glassware here. Let me put back, for some reason, it's intuitive for me to take my supplements and things, and so I keep them in there. So then obviously the next obvious thing is your glassware. Now this is something that I think that was just brilliant, and this is my sister, my brother-in-law is an architect, and he does the same thing, so it must be that architectural little neuron that they channel when they come up with these ideas. So that is the concept of vertical integration. So you'll notice that here I could have had every wine glass on one shelf, and I could have had all of these wine glasses together up on this shelf. But what I learned was, instead of organizing horizontally, like with like, I can organize vertically, like with like, going up. So this way, most of the time, if Hubs and I are using these wine glasses, we're only using a couple of them. So I'm keeping a couple down here. The rest of them will be above them in a vertical fashion so that when I entertain, I can reach up and get those. I've got martini glasses here. They are all in one place, easily within reach. Obviously, I have some more wine glasses, and then this is also where I'm keeping my ice bucket, or one of my ice buckets. Now, the other thing that I thought, okay, form follows function. You guys might recall that a while back, Stuart, remember when we did at Piatta's, and we had
the drink,
the Valentine drink. It was a limoncello Cosmos, gave me the recipe. Any of my favorite personalized, customized drink recipes I can keep right in there, and so I can pull them out. Don't have to put them in another recipe box or something that's in a different area. Most things for cocktail making are right here. Same with these little glasses. And this isn't even as perfect an example of that vertical integration organizational strategy as some of my other cabinets. I've got my little crystal vase here, and then if I'm taking it out with ice water, voila, I can just reach in there, and I've got my, I don't know what those are called, bug covers. Bug covers. Learned about those in Africa. So, and up here, we don't use these beer glasses a lot, but they're easily within reach of hubs. So there you go. This is kind of my organizational unit for right here. Now, in these other drawers, for me, this is kind of intuitive. And that is, I needed a place for leftover containers. Stuart knows that most of the time, if I cook and if he's here, that I will take. Do I not send you home,
Yes,
Stuart?
you do.
Do I not mother you sometimes?
It's wonderful.
And I send him home with takeout, baked goods, or whatever. And so for me, that's kind of part of.
You keep faking me out. I'm going down to the drawer.
You keep going down. Okay, sorry.
That's all right. I just keep going down there.
So look how wonderful this is. So this is, I think of sharing and sending leftovers and things as kind of an entertaining function.
Absolutely.
So always when my guys are here and they're helping me work out in the yard and it's really cold and I want to give them some hot coffee or hot chocolate or whatever, then I've got some of these takeout hot cups in here. I've got, if somebody wants to take something to go, then this is where I can keep my to-go cups, but also it's where I keep my leftover containers. So at the end of a meal, if I want to send Stuart home with some goodies, I can. And in fact, just yesterday, Manuel was here and he was helping us do some things around the house. He's a friend of my husband's, and I made some banana bread, so I just pulled out one of my trusty little bags and I gave him some banana bread to go.
Wait, there's banana bread?
Well, not any longer, sir. It got consumed pretty readily. So all that kind of thing is in here. And then I also wanted a place that was easily accessible. The other thing that I thought about was high traffic areas. And there are going to be certain areas in all of our homes that are just high traffic areas. You know how some kitchens are so tight, they're just like a one-butt kitchen? Much less a two-butt kitchen. So I think about that, and if Hubs is coming in, and it's hard to outthink your spouse, whether you're the male or the female, you're the primary cook, and you're thinking, people are going to be coming in my kitchen, they're going to want something. And where can I place it so they will stay out of my way as I'm cooking? And so if Hubs...
That's smart.
Isn't it smart? Okay. So if Hubs comes in and he wants something, he wants some ibuprofen, or my kids are here and they will want, I don't know, some Mucinex or something like that, then they can grab something out of this final drawer over here, which is my medicine drawer. So I've got everything you might need in here, including sunscreen. I've always wanted a singular place to put my sunscreen.
There better be bug repellent in there.
And bug repellent, not yet, Stuart, but I promise there will be soon. It's not quite that season yet. It's only 19 degrees out. I don't think there's any mosquitoes.
We're talking about being prepared here.
Right, so I've got all of that in here. I've got test kits throat lozenges, and if anybody wants anything, instead of sending them to this bathroom or that bedroom or whatever, it's all right here in this one drawer. And I can just say it's in this drawer. And not only that, Stuart, Hubs can come in here and get some sunscreen, and if I'm cooking over there, in no way is he in my zone.
True.
So this is form, follow, function, and this is my entertaining zone in this space. And it might change a little bit. One time I might have iced tea out here, who knows. But this is my entertaining station, very conveniently next to a bar cart that I can then use for overflow if I'm entertaining. And this is a fairly wide area here, so people can still pass even if somebody is standing here, or they can go on the other side of the island. And I just really love that. I'm still in the process of identifying where I want my charging stations to be. So right now I have some chargers, some phone chargers right here, Stuart, FYI, so you'll know. This may change, and probably will, but for right now, I can easily tell people that this is a charging station, and I've got additional coasters and things. Okay, Stuart, let's take a little break, and I will show a couple products that I really, really like, and then we can move on to the other zones. In the process of setting up my kitchen, I identified some needs and some things that would make my life a little bit easier, and I wanted to share them with you. Number one, I wanted a drainage mat that I could have right by my dishwasher. You know how when you take things out of the dishwasher, particularly plastic items, and they're not completely dry, or they're going to go in a different location. Then I got one of these mats. I got the extra large one. It fits perfectly in a size shaped to this great cutting board that I got years ago at Williams-Sonoma. And that way I can just take something out of the refrigerator. If it's not completely dry, I can put it here on my drain mat until it is dry, and any residual water falls into the reservoir of these little channels.
Just pour it out.
And then I can just pour it out. It also kind of serves as a protective device, I think. It's a double-sided, so you could use it whichever side is most convenient for you. The other thing is I wanted something that was kind of attractive that I could keep in my kitchen sink for when I wanted to scrub my dishes without having to get into the cabinet below. And I found this. It is, what is this called? This is a brand, Full Circle. We will put links below. And I love this. You just fill it up with your dish soap of choice, and you just put it in here. And then when you're ready to scrub your dishes, and by the way, this works great on my cast iron skillets, this will fall into those little crevices, and then you put it in here and you just compress it, and voila, you have soap on your brush. Plus, I think it's really, really good looking.
Yeah, it fits the environment.
Yeah, it fits the environment with the blonde wood. So obviously I'm into kind of blonde wood things, and I love that. I think this would be a great Christmas gift. We need to remember that, Stuart, a good stocking stuffer gift. Okay, thirdly, I had a heavy, clunkier cookbook stand, and it just didn't match the aesthetic. So I got one of these light wood bamboo cookbook holders, and yes, Stuart, I actually cooked. I haven't had a chance to cook for so long. So I actually cooked. I made, we'll share this a little bit later, I made braised chicken and poblano chilies. I might need to make that in a cooking episode. It was delish. But you can put your cookbook or your magazine or whatever on here, and look at that, Stuart. It's got these brackets that hold it open for you and secure it in place. And I really, really like that, so I can be following the directions right here as I'm cooking. And by the way, that recipe came out of this month's issue of Food and Wine, Cooking for Comfort. And it's been so, so cold that if there's ever a time you want to do comfort cooking, it's now, especially if you might feel a little bit homesick in a new place. So those are just some items that might make your life a little bit easier and definitely helped me. Well, here is just a heads up, because in this beautiful kitchen, we're finally going to do some cooking. I'm no great cook, but I can do a pretend cooking show just like Jennifer Gardner, and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to make a recipe out of this Skinny Taste cookbook, and I'll put the link below where you guys can get this cookbook, because Hubs and I are all about being healthy in our new life, in our new house, and we're going to be making this fettuccine Alfredo with chicken and broccoli. I can't imagine how this could be healthy, but nevertheless, we're going to give it a try. If you want to make it along with me, go to the community tab where we'll have the entire recipe, but it should be fun. So Stuart, let's get cooking next week.
All right.
Okay. Well, my next zone, if that was kind of the cocktail entertaining zone, the next zone or area that I have is the coffee area. Stuart walked in and the first thing he wanted was a cup of coffee, and I said, oh, well, it's just right over there. So now he knows where the coffee zone is. I do have a large coffee pot if on occasion I'm having guests and I want to put that out, but right now I can just have single serve out. And next to it, I've got hot chocolate, I've got my teas, I've got spoons.
This is what I need to
and
set up.
stirs and things. There's tea bags in here, everything you would need. Now, Hubs and I have our special coffee cups that we use, and they're in the dishwasher right now, but typically they sit right here on the station. But if I have guests and they want coffee, I just say, oh, they're just right over here.
Handy.
So with barely taking any steps, there's extra coffee cups, and I can use these for my guests if they want a cup of tea or a cup of hot chocolate. And notice how brilliant it is, because my dishwasher is just right here. So when I take them out of the dishwasher, I just can place them right there. And I only have out as many as I think I'm going to need. If I've got a big crowd, then I will go up where they're less accessible. But on a daily basis, I only want those few things out, because it's kind of the best of minimalist living. So intuitively then, if I've got these beverages here, where might I want to have the rest of the beverages? And the rest of the beverages and things, if I need additional coffee pods and things, they are in here.
I was like, do you have coffee, Linda? And she's like,
oh, do I have coffee?
She's got coffee.
Yes, so I've got additional coffee and tea in here. And also, because it is so close to the bar where Hubs and I have been eating, in here is where I have my runners, my napkins, and my cloth napkins. So I can easily, without even taking a step, Hubs can set the table or set the island for dinner.
I'm really liking that yellow and orange peachy
Oh,
thing.
this is a gift. This is a gift from my friend
I don't know if I see
Veronica.
that.
This is her dad's girlfriend, and the two of them sent me
colors.
this. Aren't they beautiful?
It's like a peach, orange,
Yeah.
yellow. It's beautiful.
Very pretty. I need to thank her for those and use those.
Well, you just kind of did.
And then in the bottom drawer, I have extra coffee cups, tea cups, and also I've got placemats in here. So it works really, really well. The other thing that I'm stashing in here is if I've got ideas for styling the island or tablescapes or something like that, then I can just tuck them in there, and I will have them if I want to refer back to them. So good little ideas also reside in the areas that they address. So I can just tuck those in there. Instead of having tear sheets that are scattered everywhere, I put the relevant tear sheet near that zone.
I think I need to watch this video. I could learn a lot.
You could learn a lot. Okay, there's always it's always, where do you put your silverware? Well, the obvious place is very intuitive almost immediately. And so here I've got everything that I need, all of my flatware, my knives, but also some paper napkins. Where do I go when the paper napkins need to be replenished? Right there. But this way, you don't even have to bend, and you can grab a napkin. Very, very intuitive. Now, this this about blew my mind because this did not at all seem logical to me. And yesterday, as I was baking banana nut bread, I realized the sheer brilliance of it. And that is in this tiny area, another zone that many of us have is baking. So everything related to baking is in this zone right here. Is that not a marvel?
Oh, it's a deep drawer too.
It's a deep drawer. So I've got all of my baking supplies in here, down to cooking oil. I've got my chocolate chips. I've got my baking soda and my baking powder. It's all right here. And what I like is that I can then take these out, and even if I could access them without even moving them from the drawer.
It's like the height is great because it's right below you.
Yes, and heretofore I had these up on a higher shelf in a pantry, and I have to get them. Yeah, okay, is this not brilliant?
It's brilliant.
I just love it. Now, if I need a measuring spoon or a measuring cup, all I have to do is come over here to the next drawer in my baking station where I've got my mixing bowls, my cups, I've got my measuring spoon, I've got my silpats, a number of other things relative to baking. And then
there's more.
There's more. Wait, there's more. I've got pie pans. I've got souffle dishes in here. And below here, I have all of my baking and casserole and things like that dishes.
Oh, that's the Julia drawer at my house.
The Julia drawer. And look, I even have an Oklahoma shaped. Usually that's cornbread. So all of that's in here. So I yesterday was able to bake, and I didn't have to move more than like 3 or 4 inches. Now the only thing, or 3 or 4 feet. The only thing that's not here are some of my related spices and things which are in the pantry, which we might save for another day. I could find for some of those spices that I use with regularity, I'm sure I could squeeze some of them in this drawer. So I think that is just a thing of beauty, like with like, and form follows function. The other thing I did was I got rid of some duplicates. So if there were things that I just really didn't need, I believe you were the recipient of an extra colander that I had. There'll be more coming your way. I got rid of that because I really, how many colanders does a person really need?
13? Man.
I don't think so. Okay. So obviously then, where are my pots and pans, you say? Well, my pots and pans are down below, but first I have to show you my salad station. So all of my salad bowls, what I make my vinaigrettes with, my salad tongs and utensils, all of those are in this drawer here, along with some of my favorite vinaigrette recipes, which, and by the way, hopefully some of this stuff will get laminated later. But right here in this drawer are those pots and pans right next to the stove that I use most frequently.
Convenient.
Very convenient. Extra things like large lids, anything really large is up here in a cabinet with my other trays. So that covers, I would say, 90% of the cooking that I do, in addition to my indispensable cast iron skillets that I keep on the stove at all time because these are heavy. Sometimes also, I must point out, if I have a goodie, this is some of that sourdough bread Stuart and I love so much, then I can keep it here in some kind of little confection stand for visitors or for hubs. So over here on the opposite side, in my little kitchen triangle, I guess, are the rest of my kind of miscellaneous pots and pans that I don't use a whole lot.
So I can just be further away.
Yes, so they can be further away.
Well, boy, for me, it's kind of like the idea. I live alone, and I have a bunch of glasses, and I go through every glass before I really start like making sure they're washed and back out. So having something that kept those away, I don't know, it could help.
Yeah, it could help. Just leave one out, wash it, put it back. So this is an example of that vertical integration here, where I have more of those wine glasses that are now on this side. I have plates that I don't use right now. These used to be my everyday, and I wanted to start using some of my other kind of another neutral color of daily serving dishes, which Stuart, if you would pan over there, I am now keeping out on the counter because I love the way they look.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
And so there they are, and they look great, and they match the aesthetic of the wood tones and things that I've got out. And more importantly, they are so accessible. I can just reach in that cabinet and get them. I've got more drinkware right here, which intuitively is near the freezer where you would get your ice. And then over here, Stuart, I've got, this would be a combination of both dining and also what we would consider serving. So I've got my plates that we use daily here. I've got the bowls here. Serving platters that I use all of the time are here. Tiny little dishes and plates are right here. Very, very accessible. Now something else, and you can see another tear sheet I've got in here with some ideas. Another thing that for me was an impediment to kitchen organization is I thought everything needed to be perfect when it went in its space. In other words, every single shelf had to have every shelf needed to be lined perfectly in shelf liner. Everything had to be perfectly clean, every spice bottle, every appliance before it went in its place. And that was an impediment to me because if that degree of perfection would have taken a week. What I learned was, you'll notice that some of my cabinets have shelf liner down, but some don't. And I will get to that as more shelf liner comes in. But that way I can just do this one cabinet at a time, but it looks very presentable and I'm not making too much of a mess as I procrastinate in getting the shelf liner down. But more importantly, everything is in place and very pleasingly so. So I really like that, and I like the fact that to a certain extent, my friend Deborah gave me permission for things, just get it where you need it to be, and then you can work on the tweaking a little bit later. One thing I noticed this morning as I'm working in my kitchen triangle with my sink, my refrigerator, and my stove is at first I thought, oh, I won't like my dishwasher being here in this enclosed space. Actually, it's been brilliant. And one thing that I discovered is that when I am unloading the dishwasher for most things, I stand on this side of the dishwasher and I don't have to move at all. Everything can be put away right here. Then for the remainder, I just stand on the opposite side of the dishwasher, and in a matter of steps, I can put all of that stuff away. So it makes it less intimidating because one of the things I hate to do is empty the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. So that has been very, very helpful. Now the other zone that I would talk about is obviously, you know, all of your food, all of your spices, all of your appliances. And we're going to save that for a separate video, Stuart, because it's a little bit more involved how we came up with that. But I do have them here. And since we identified that this was a potential problem area, traffic area, when you're trying to access something from the pantry, I really tried to keep that in mind in terms of what things I want to put inside the pantry. A number of you had the great idea of if these were bifold. In other words, they were hinged right here and then they could go back into space. But number one, I don't want to spend that kind of money right now. Number two, I love the way this looks. I love the exterior and the clean look. And I also love the drama of opening my larder like that. So that will be another video for another time and another and another place. So Stuart, did I miss any of those tips that she shared with us? I think I got most of them, but if you have your tips, please make sure to share, comment below. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you like this kind of content, give it a thumbs up and make sure to share with others if you think that they might enjoy following along in this ride as we move from a larger house to a not so much smaller house, but much easier living. Well, I promise you, we have not tried to be coy about this in making the announcement as to who bought my former house, aka the fairy tale house. A lot of you have already guessed, but you know what, Stuart? Let's just do it. Without further ado, here is the new owner of 829 Northwest 40th Street. So we were not trying to be coy in not announcing this, but obviously there were a lot of things that were ebbing and flowing with my getting this house, you're getting your house, and it's kind of like not prematurely announcing a pregnancy.
Right,
Hold on,
yeah.
tell everybody who she is that don't know her. Not
Oh,
everybody knows
okay. Yeah, duh. I apologize. I'm making an
Here's a
assumption
random
here.
woman.
Here's a random woman. Okay. Well, for those of you that are new subscribers, this is my pal and buddy, Sydney Dorman, who lives down the street from me. And she and her husband, Tommy, have become great friends.
Lived down the street.
Lived.
Oh, yeah, lived down the
yeah,
street.
look at that habit.
Yeah, live. Oh, I know. And it's so weird when I say your house now.
Yeah, it is.
But how this came about was really very organically. So first of all, we became friends, as so many of us do over gardening.
Yes.
So was it Tommy?
Yeah, you spoke to Tommy in the front yard that day, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I don't know where I was. I don't even think I was home, but you spoke to Tommy, and then we started speaking, and then the next thing you know, you come and video the garden, and then you video the inside and the Christmas tour, and
Which we'll put links to
Yeah.
because they were amazing.
so
Yeah,
it kind of just
yeah.
snowballed from there.
And we have shared a couple bottles of wine.
Yeah, yeah,
And partied a little bit
a little bit.
at your house now.
At my current house, that's still weird to say.
At his,
Yeah.
So Tommy very much reminded me of my youngest brother, Tom, and I was just complimenting him on your yard and your landscape and how beautiful it was. Then we discovered we had so much in common, our love for the Southwest and just a lot of different things. And so one day you were out working in the yard, and I just stopped, and we were talking, and you'd casually mentioned that you were looking at a house.
Yeah, we'd just been looking at some other houses in the neighborhood, something just a little bit bigger, and I just had talked to Linda, and I said, hey, do you know who owns this house on our street? And she kind of said, why? And I said, well, we're just looking to maybe buy something a little bit bigger. And then she said, why don't you buy our house? And I was like, is your house for sale?
Yeah.
So
It's been the talk of the street.
Yeah.
Because we've been there for 32 years. And so anyhow, it just evolved from there. And of course, I could not be more thrilled.
we're so excited. So it's perfect for us. We're going to change some things, but it's purely cosmetic. So
Yeah, and some of the things needed changing. And one of the reasons that we were ready to move was because I really wanted the next owner to do those things and put their stamp and their personality on it. And Sydney and Tommy have exquisite taste, as you guys, as you've experienced. And I love the fact that my vibe tends to be a little bit more traditional and yours tends to be a little bit more boho and a little bit more eclectic. So I know all of you, and I certainly am fascinated to see how it translates. I got a little tease, and what's interesting is I don't get teary about it. But when you sent me the picture of how you've got the bed in front of the bookshelves, that made me so happy.
yeah. That was one of the first things that we did. So we moved in and got everything settled, and I said, I have to get these bookshelves done. I need to get our bedroom done. Yeah. The office is not done at all. And my mom's in town this weekend, and we hung some things, and I have a lot of art.
Yeah.
But what I've realized is I don't have enough art for
the big house.
Gotta get more. Well, that's
That's the
exciting.
fun part. So we'll be on the lookout. We're going to go thrifting today and
Yeah.
be on the lookout for some new art.
That's
and
the other
furniture.
thing that we bonded over is our love of thrifting and thrift store treasures and rugs and Native American art. Just a lot of different things. And as I said, they have exquisite taste. But I also want to make this big announcement that you're going to start.
I'm going to start a YouTube channel. The followers.
At your encouragement.
Yes.
At your encouragement.
At Stewart's and Linda's, and a lot of people have messaged me on Instagram asking if I have a YouTube channel. And so I kind of regret not doing it when we moved into our other house, just because we changed a lot outside. The entire landscape changed. So I'll be documenting the inside changes, the outside changes, and that way it's a record for us, and the people that are asking on Instagram and other social media accounts can follow along.
Yeah.
So.
And you have that as an advantage that you know from the get-go that you're wanting to record this and you're wanting to show its evolution, so you'll be able to do before and after and all of that kind of thing. Something that I didn't realize for me was going to happen.
Hindsight,
In
yeah.
hindsight. So I'm doing it here. Sydney's doing it at her place. After we both get pretty established, I think, was it your idea that we need to get together once a month at each other's houses and drink wine? Which I don't, need an excuse.
Neither do I, but it's a good one.
But it's a good one, and we both can't wait for spring. So Sydney will be sharing what the house looks like as it progresses forward, and I'll be sharing some stuff as well. Once we both get settled, we'll be doing some reciprocal tours of each other's homes on our respective channels. So, but in the meantime, is it just going to be, what's your YouTube handle going to be?
Just my name, Sydney Dorman. So,
Sydney Dorman. Yeah.
I think I'm just going to keep it like that. That's the current account that I have, so I'll just keep it as is, because I have a couple subscribers. I have no idea how, and I don't know. I don't know from when, but I have 2 subscribers at the moment. So
Well, wait till we show you some love.
2 whole subscribers.
And
Share
then,
it on here, it might grow.
yeah, it might grow a little bit. My friend John Turman, my decorating buddy, people have said, "Oh, you need to start a YouTube. You need to start a YouTube channel." So I guess that makes me Cheers and you Frasier. And
Oh, there you go.
there you go. So anyhow, it will be very fun. Again, so many of you were very smart and figured it out. Sydney's mom was telling me that was a neighbor, somebody in the neighborhood who put 2 and 2 together when Sydney's
early
for
on.
sale sign went up shortly after we sold our house. It was so nice for us. Our house never went on the market. We kind of didn't expect it to go on the market because of the number of people that were interested. But I could not be more thrilled that you will be the new stewards.
Yeah, we're very excited. It's a great house. The layout's great. It reminds me of the house I grew up in. There's a full circle downstairs, and you can go all the way around. So, yeah, it should be very exciting. Some things are going to change, like I said.
Yeah.
But everything's going to be purely cosmetic. So
Okay, so I have to ask, what did you decide to do about the laundry room?
it's going down to the basement.
Is it going down to the basement?
It's going down to the basement.
Is it
Yep.
going down to the basement, which
Yep.
is so interesting and something that only a young person has the luxury to do. But you show me an image of what you're going to do with that space.
I think it's going to be pretty cool. That stuff should start next week.
Next week. Yeah, it's boy, it's an avalanche, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You want to change one thing in these old houses, and then you're like, ooh, I forgot about the trim, the original trim, and all the pieces that go along with that. But we are going to move it down to the basement. We're used to that at our other house.
Yeah.
And we just kind of want to make that space up there a little more functional for our purposes, for what we do and how we use it. So.
Because that's what's important, is making the space personalized to how you live your life, and both aesthetically and practically. Well, I could not be more thrilled. So if here is a final question of the day. If you were one of those who intuited that it was going to be Sydney and Tommy who bought my house, I want you to claim credit in the comments below. Again, we weren't trying to be coy, but it's also, we've been kind of busy. It's been very difficult. We wanted to make this announcement together.
Yeah, we've been very busy, both of us, and it's been a process also.
Yes.
Selling our house, and Linda had a time frame and trying to get the buyers that purchased our house to be on the same time frame. It was just a lot, but here we are.
Yeah,
So.
it's a dance.
We made
It's a
it.
dance, and you could fall flat on your face at any point in time, so that's another reason with our hesitancy. Thank you, my darling.
Thank you.
Well, today on the channel, I am just going to give you a hodgepodge of updates. One of them being the beginnings of the gallery wall here that my friend John is going to come over and help me with. A few updates about window treatments, and just a few other things that will demonstrate that we're making a little bit of forward progress. Not as much as I would like, still waiting on a lot of things, but I wanted to give you a few updates. So let's get started.
So one of the things that came up in the list of stuff was the use of this room. And from that first video, you know, we sort of talked about it, but we didn't really come in here. So I think people were curious and it was kind of mysterious, you know, what's happening out there. So a lot of suggestions came in for not using it as a living room.
Right.
Which is a great idea, and I've done that in people's homes, and it's very successful. But I would kind of explain what your thought is about the room itself and why you want it to be a sitting area.
Well, for me, it's not even a living room, it's a parlor.
Yes. Well, the size is that.
The size is of a parlor, and it would make a beautiful dining room.
It would.
But I do think, to me, it's a little bit odd that your front door comes into a dining room. And when I was growing up, my grandmother had that set up in her house. And even as a child, I remember thinking, that seemed a little...
That's not quite right. What's wrong?
That's not quite right. Though it could be fabulous, and I have seen it done in a fabulous way. But for me...
It makes sense.
I very much saw this as a parlor. And the other thing is, it just has such incredible light.
Well, I would think this would be a room you might sit in the daytime.
Okay.
And work and read or whatever you might do.
Absolutely. So you and I came up with this little kind of configuration, a little sitting area, and like in Toy Story, you know, Woody the puppet. This is my spot.
Is that your spot?
Okay, I have found this is my spot.
Well, and in the winter, the warm sun's on your back.
I'm
there,
like,
so.
I know, I'm like a cat
Yes, you are.
curling up in the windowsill. And I get cold and I come over here and it's just delightful. And I promise you, and I will have tea here or
Okay,
wine
I'm counting on it.
sometime. I just love it. It's also, I have found, where I spend so much time on the phone in calls and things of that nature. And I have found that it's not my office. This is where I spend all my time on my phone because I just find it so comfortable. I find it like I'm part of something bigger, part of the neighborhood. And so I love, even though the room is small, I just love this little
Well, I think
area.
that's important. And again, this is that daily use of a room. And you're going to use it daily in that way.
Right. And
you
how
might use
often-
it once or twice as a dining room.
Exactly.
So that makes sense. And I really do think, I mean, the dining room thing would work, but the way this is laid out, when you walk into the house, it feels nice to have a sitting area here and then to have a table there and kitchen.
It would
And
almost be like
all-
dining room.
Right, it would be. It would be a little weird. And I think I mean, this is not too far from the kitchen for people to be sitting, even if you are entertaining, 8 people.
Yeah.
You'll still be part of the fun.
Yeah,
So
I think
it
so
works
too.
for that. And then at some point down the line, we do love this. So I think we're going to make the room work around this setup over here, which is the table.
Which
and
is
the
an
2 chairs.
accident.
Right, but it's perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll talk some point about furniture arrangement and figure that out. And I know you have some ideas for
Yeah.
a piece of furniture for in here.
Yeah, yes.
And then one of the things too that came up in the conversations was a sense of scale in houses. And this probably is the smallest room in the house,
Right.
actually. I bet it is. And it sometimes works really well to have a piece that's not of that scale. And you brilliantly placed this sideboard over
Kind of
here.
massive
Which
sideboard,
also
yeah.
creates balance to the fireplace. The color of the wood's similar. They're all, it just really works. So my goal for you is to kind of try to keep this room a little bit open in here when you walk in the front door. I don't want you just to cut it off with a big sofa or something back here. So more on that later.
Yeah. Yes, more to come on that.
I have some work to do yet.
You do have some work to do. You know what makes me happiest about this room, though?
What's that?
It's these unexpected little things. And if you guys have recently moved or are about to, these are the things I'm really trying to be mindful and cognizant of, because in our other house, my husband had his chair. We call it the dad chair. You were sitting in it.
I got to sit in
you
the
got
dad
to
chair.
sit in the throne, the dad chair. And whenever my husband was at home in that house, he was in that chair. That was his spot. He was always in that chair. In this house, I have noticed he moves from room to room and has multiple spots based on the light. Like we just are drawn to
You're both
to the light.
exploring your cat tendencies. I
Our
think.
cat tendencies. But this morning, he got up earlier than I did. We've only spent a few nights in this house. He got up earlier than I did. And I just naturally thought he would be in his dad chair by the fire where he always was at home. No.
He was in here.
He's been in here. And I said, oh, you're in the parlor. And he said, yes. And I said, so deconstruct that for me. Why are you here? And he said, because there's that brilliant sunlight that's starting to come
winter
in.
southern sun is just great.
And I can see as the sun comes up, the trees are illuminated. I see people, we're all about being part of the neighborhood.
Right.
And he said, I see people going by, starting their day. And he said, and it just makes me happy. And I thought, oh, wow. Who knew that moving into a different house
it's a
would
different
expand
concept
your
too from your old
horizons?
house.
Very much so.
When you were inside, you were inside, and you didn't see out as much,
Yes.
and this is just a different thing. So I can see that.
Yeah.
And the fact that this room is so close to the kitchen. I mean, if he's going in to make coffee or a bowl of cereal or whatever, this is the natural place to go sit.
is.
And so that's just great. I think you'll use this room far more than you did your other living room.
Yeah, I always kind of anticipated that I would be using this room and my husband would be
back
using
there.
the back. But happily, we find that unlike our other house, we're using all of the areas.
That's great.
And it feels almost like you're in a different house depending on where you are. And I also think of this as maybe more kind of the summer, spring room, and back there is really
It's an
the
evening
winter.
or a winter room or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
makes
and this
sense.
is the day
Yeah.
room, and that's the evening room.
Absolutely.
So, but I think this is really, I just think it's charming, and it's an old-fashioned concept, but I love the concept of a parlor.
I agree. So I think for Linda's house, this will not be a dining room.
It will not be
It
a
will be a
dining
sitting
room.
room,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Okay, let's go back to the great room.
Okay.
Well, here is an update on the entryway closet. As you may recall, it is right by the front door and it's got these charming, sweet windows. And my initial thought was that I would make it a coat closet, kind of a semblance of a mudroom, and that's the type of ingredients that are in here right now. However, it is not going to stay that way because I very much took John's advice and all of your advice, and this is going to be an entertainment closet. Once it gets completely switched out with all of these coats and jackets and boots and things like that, and it will be a more formal, really beautiful space, I think. Once we make some changes, we'll probably put some shelving in here and things of that nature. And what is an entertainment closet? Well, I am hoping that it will house all of, a lot of my table linens, my china, candlesticks, things like that. And hopefully we can style it in a way that's not only functional, but is really beautiful as well. Now, another update, you can see all of these boxes on the floor. I was so pleased with the way these blinds look in the living room and in the kitchen that I decided that they really needed to be replicated throughout the cottage. I like the uniformity of that, and I just in general like their good looks. So I've ordered a number more sets of these. And we'll put the description and the source in the description box below. But these are the
color or the style of them is called, I believe, Petite Rustic. And I just got them off of Amazon, but they've been absolutely brilliant. And not only are they good looking hanging by themselves, but they also, I think, will be great looking hanging behind some curtains that are already in place in my bedroom, and then some that we're going to be hanging in the guest bedroom. So that's another update, and they are just waiting to be hung, hopefully tomorrow, by the guy who comes and just hangs stuff. In addition to this mess over here. And an update on things that we are still waiting for. We're still waiting for a lot of things, and I'm trying to be patient, namely the kitchen table that will go right here, and the bar stools that will go up there by the bar. The bar stools came from Grandin Road, and the table was, I believe, from Lift Fad. And then the other pivotal piece that we're waiting on is the settee for the living room, and it came from our house. And supposedly these things are supposed to arrive in March. So we're really waiting with great anticipation for them. Yet another thing that the hanger guy will need to install tomorrow is my mailbox. So for whatever reason, the front of the house did not have any kind of mailbox when we moved in, and I ordered this one online, had it customized, and now it will go on the brick wall behind the topiary. The other thing that those shades will do is that they will provide uniformity on all of the windows from the outside as well as the inside. So when you look at the facade of my house and all of the windows, they will match, and that was important to me. This blank wall in my office will hopefully, by the end of the day, be filled with 3 birch veneer Billy bookcases from IKEA. We're also going to put some black ones in the guest bedroom, and when those get up, I will give you a glimpse. So here is a before video of the guest bedroom, looking very, very blank and kind of boring. But this is where 2 black IKEA bookcases will live on either side of the bed. And it will really give some visual weight to that area. And then these windows will also be decked out in those shades, and also with some drapes that will go in front of the shades. One of the things I have been most anxious to get done is the gallery wall in the great room surrounding the TV. If for no other reason than I am very ready to get all of these maps, these photographs and everything off of the floor and into place, because it's kind of hard to visualize what things will look like with all of them just kind of scattered about. So my friend John is coming over today, and we're going to be organizing, reorganizing, figuring out where what needs to go. There are some things that need new glass, but nevertheless we can put placeholders there. Somebody's coming over tomorrow to help me actually hang some of these things. That paper is the TV, and I imagine that, I don't know, I'm not sure how John's going to do this. He has a methodology. I don't know if that's with templates or what. And then I want a cohesive look, but I don't want it to be boring. So here is my question of the day. Do you think it is attractive to include other elements, other things that are not maps, as long as they have the same kind of earthy or I guess travel-y vibe to them? That's something that I'm thinking about. And some of them I just think they look too modern or maybe too bright. For example, I love that Oklahoma frame there, but does it look too stark in comparison to the parchment colored of the backgrounds and most of the other things? So that's one of the things we're going to be working on today. So as a reminder, this is the wall in the great room that is going to host the gallery wall. And you can see there is quite a bit of wall space. So I am ready to fill it. And don't judge anything because nothing is in its final resting place. Nothing has been styled. Things are just stacked everywhere. You can see books on the floor. But I am hoping that fairly soon, by the middle of the week, this whole area will be completely transformed in a beautiful way. And I'm so glad we decided to put the TV here, not only for aesthetic reasons, but also because, as I suspected, we seldom watch TV. I don't think we've ever watched TV in here during the day. So the fact that there is some glare, in fact, you can see it now coming off of the TV. The fact that there's some glare off of it has proven to not be an issue at all. It hasn't even been raised. And then we've got to get the stereo in place. I still haven't done anything with the bookshelves. However, on this other wall, we did get some things hung. I believe I've shown that to you before. And there are more things that will go on top of these bookcases. Let me shift a little bit. You can kind of see with a greater detail what's in there. And then the casement windows have been ordered. And pretty soon we're just going to be, well, we already are. We're just in a waiting mode for things that we have ordered to come in. The back is still a mess, but it's cold out today, so that we'll just have to wait until it warms up some. Patience is the hardest part, as you all well know. But we continue to love the bookcases over here. And once we get the great wall in the great room hung, I will definitely show it to you. And then there will very much be enough cold weather left where we can enjoy the finished room with a fire lit in the fireplace.